Hey everyone, and welcome. If you're tuning in, you're probably on an F1 or maybe an H-1B, J-1 visa, and thinking about, settling down here in the U.S.
Definitely a familiar audience.
Yeah, well, this week we're going to be diving into the latest newsletter from greencardforselfpetition.com.
Always a great resource, especially for those going the DIY route for their green card.
For sure. This week's newsletter, it's a gold mine, really. Changes to the entrepreneur rule, updates from USCIS, even some stuff about bringing your family over. A lot to unpack.
It's interesting, actually, to see USCIS tackling so many, key areas all at once. Like the changes to the international entrepreneur rule, those suggest, I think, a real shift in their approach, especially the financial side, for aspiring entrepreneurs.
Yeah, the investment and revenue thresholds, they've definitely been, they've gotten a makeover, that's for sure.
Definitely something to watch, especially if you're thinking about the entrepreneur pathway. For those just starting out, the bar is, it's higher now. You're looking at a minimum investment of $311,071 or 124,429 ends in government awards or grants,
Right.
just to even be considered. But even more striking is the requirement for reparole.
You mean for people hoping to extend their stay
Yeah.
under the entrepreneur rule?
Exactly. The stakes are, they're even higher for them. Your startup would need to have secured at least, $622,142 in funding, or created 5 new jobs at least, or hit that same revenue figure but with 20% annual growth.
Wow, that's a pretty big jump. Sounds like they're really focusing on proven success now and sustainability too.
Definitely. And it's not only about the finances either. The updated policy also makes biometrics collection mandatory before approval.
Oh, interesting. Makes sense, I guess, from a security and verification standpoint. But does that mean applicants have to, wait longer for a decision?
It could, yeah, potentially add some time. But there is a chance of getting conditional approval before the biometric stage. So that would at least give applicants some, reassurance.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. So moving on from the entrepreneur rule, let's talk about something that I'm sure everyone listening can relate to, USCIS services, or sometimes the lack thereof.
It's a common pain point for sure.
Yeah. But the good news is it seems like there might be some progress on that front.
Some positive developments, at least from the recent AILA and USCIS meeting.
Oh, okay. AILA, that's the American Immigration Lawyers Association, right?
Exactly. And they seem to be, taking some concrete steps to address the frustrations that a lot of applicants experience.
It's about time. So what kind of concrete improvements are we talking about here?
Well, for one, they're expanding the online filing options. Right now, there are 17 forms available online. That covers about 41% of all cases.
This is pretty good.
It is, and they're planning to add even more forms to the online platform, streamline things a bit.
That's great news. I mean, it's 2024. It's about time, right?
Right. Another good thing is the Connect to Live agent feature. They added that to their virtual assistant, Emma.
Oh, that's great. So you can actually talk to a human.
Exactly, instead of getting stuck with a chatbot.
That's a relief. And what about the lockbox issue? Any progress there?
So AILA really pushed for, greater clarity and transparency around package rejections at the USCIS lockboxes.
Oh, yeah.
Remember those times your application was rejected because the check was stapled or your photos were the wrong size?
Oh, it's so frustrating.
It is. It's incredibly frustrating to have your case delayed because of, minor technicalities.
Absolutely.
Thankfully, USCIS is going to review their processes and hopefully they'll provide clearer guidelines, so fewer rejections.
That's a win, for sure. Okay, so now for those of you who are married to U.S. citizens or green card holders or maybe thinking about sponsoring family members in the future, let's talk about family-based immigration, specifically Form I-130.
The foundation really for anyone sponsoring a family member for U.S. residency. First step.
Right.
And while approval doesn't automatically mean a green card, it is, it's essential.
So who can actually file this form? Is it only U.S. citizens?
Not necessarily. U.S. citizens can, of course, but lawful permanent residents can too, and even U.S. nationals.
Okay, but it's just the first step in a longer process, right?
Exactly. Even with an approved petition, your relative still needs to, go through the whole visa application process, background checks, interviews, and, all the eligibility requirements for their specific visa category.
So it's really important to understand that filing Form I-130 is just the beginning. What are some key things our listeners should keep in mind if they're, considering this path?
Well, first and foremost, accuracy is key. Attention to detail. You'll need solid documentation to prove your relationship to the relative you're sponsoring. Any inconsistencies or missing information can lead to delays or even rejection.
That's all about dotting your I's and crossing your T's, right?
Precisely. And always use the secure.gov websites for information and forms. There are a lot of fraudulent sites out there.
Good point. Now, there's some specific guidance in the newsletter for Afghan national relatives. What should listeners know about that?
There are some specific instructions and even some potential fee exemptions for those petitioning for Afghan nationals. So if that applies to you, make sure you review those carefully. Again, the official USCIS website is the best place for that.
Okay. And speaking of specific situations, there's been some news about temporary relief for Lebanese nationals because of the ongoing conflicts in Lebanon.
Right.
This might be, well, particularly relevant for some of our listeners, especially those on student visas.
Absolutely. The U.S. has implemented Deferred Enforced Departure, or DED, and also Temporary Protected Status, that's TPS, both for Lebanese nationals.
Okay, so what does that actually mean? I mean, what benefits do those designations provide?
Well, both DED and TPS, they offer some crucial protections, including work authorization and temporary relief from deportation. So that means, eligible Lebanese nationals can stay in the U.S. legally and support themselves while things in Lebanon are, well, unstable.
Right. That's a huge relief for them. How long will this relief last? And who exactly is eligible?
But the TPS designation for Lebanon is set for 18 months. And they estimate it will benefit about 11,000 Lebanese nationals who are already living in the U.S. and about 1,740 people currently on F1 student visas.
Okay. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about, well, something I think a lot of you are probably eager to hear about, pathways to permanent residency, specifically through the EB1 and EB2 visa categories.
Right. Very popular option.
Yeah, especially among, professionals, people with advanced degrees.
Yes, absolutely. The EB1 and EB2 categories are, well, they're attractive options for those seeking permanent residency based on, exceptional skills and contributions. We're seeing a lot of interest lately, particularly in the EB1A. That's for individuals with extraordinary ability.
What's driving that surge in popularity for the EB1A?
Well, a couple of things. First, the EB1A is often seen as having more straightforward requirements than some of the other employment-based categories.
Right.
You don't have to go through that often very complicated labor certification process.
Okay, so one less hurdle. What else?
USCIS has also been, well, clarifying the criteria for extraordinary ability, making the process a bit more transparent, more predictable. They've also expanded the range of fields that are considered eligible for the ED1A. So it's opening doors for a wider range of, talented individuals.
Sounds like they're really recognizing that diverse pool of talent, huh?
They are. Professionals in STEM fields, business, the arts, athletics, you name it.
Okay. But what about the EB2 NIW, the National Interest Waiver? How does that compare to the EB1A?
Well, they both offer pathways to permanent residency, but they target slightly different profiles. The EB2 NIW is geared towards people whose work is considered, well, in the national interests of the U.S.
So it's not just about, individual achievement, but about the broader impact of your work.
Exactly. The EB2 NIW requires a two-tiered approach. So you have to meet the basic requirements for the EB2 category. And then you have to convince USCIS that waiving the labor certification requirement is in the national interest.
It sounds like a higher bar to clear.
It can be, yes.
What kind of evidence would you need to make that case for the waiver?
It's about showcasing really the exceptional nature of your work and how it can benefit the U.S. Strong documentation is key here. Your past achievements, your future plans, and how your work aligns with national priorities. Things like healthcare, technology, education, economic growth,
So showing that your contributions go beyond, just you.
Yeah.
And actually have a wider impact.
Exactly.
Okay. Now let's tackle a few specific questions. I think these are probably on a lot of our listeners' minds. These actually came straight from the greencardforselfpetition.com newsletter, so shout out to them. First up, can work displayed like exhibitions or performances be used as evidence for an EB1A self-petition?
Absolutely. In fact, for people in fields like, the arts, music, performance, those exhibitions and performances, they're crucial pieces of evidence.
Okay, so attending just any open mic night or local art fair, that's not going to cut it, right?
You got it. The key is prestige selectivity. The exhibitions or performances you cite, they should be well regarded in your field and have a rigorous selection process.
So we're talking like renowned galleries, international film festivals, that sort of thing.
Exactly. The kind of events that really carry weight.
Okay. Now, onto a question that might be a bit more sensitive. Can you still apply for an NIW if you have a criminal record
Yeah.
or past visa violations?
You can still apply, yes. But it's important to understand that those issues can impact your application. USCIS looks at everything, your character, achievements, potential contributions. While a past mistake doesn't automatically disqualify you, it's essential to address it and proactively.
Yeah. But what's the best approach there? Should you try to downplay it or just ignore it?
No. Honesty and transparency are key. It's much better to disclose everything up front. Provide context, for any past issues.
Right.
Rather than trying to hide things. Remember, USCIS has access to, a lot of records. So trying to conceal information can really hurt your case.
So it's about owning your past
Right.
and showing how you've learned and grown from any mistakes, right?
Exactly. And this is where having an experienced immigration attorney can be really valuable. They can help you navigate the complexities, present your story in the best light, and advise you on the potential challenges.
Makes sense. Now, this deep dive is really highlighting the nuances of U.S. immigration, isn't it?
Absolutely. There are so many factors at play.
It's not always black and white.
It's not.
That's why we always, emphasize research and preparation, understanding the specific requirements, gathering strong evidence, presenting a compelling narrative. All of that can really make a difference.
For sure.
Speaking of presenting a compelling narrative, there was an interesting article in the newsletter about the role of PR firms in EB-1A visa applications. Specifically, this firm called Baden. What's their angle?
Well, the EB-1A category has become incredibly competitive. So applicants are looking for, any edge they can get.
Right.
And Baden specializes in helping people build a strong public profile.
Makes sense.
Which can be a really valuable asset when applying for this visa.
So it's not just about having the accomplishments, but how you showcase them.
Exactly.
What kind of services do they actually offer?
Their focus is on securing media placements and helping applicants get influential recommendation letters.
Oh, yeah.
Now, those letters aren't mandatory for the EB-1A, but they can add a lot of weight to your application, especially if they're from, recognized experts in your field.
Like having someone with authority vouch for you. Right.
Exactly. And that's where Baden comes in. They help you identify the right referees and craft narratives that highlight your achievements in a way that resonates with USCIS.
It's really interesting how even PR is evolving to, cater to immigration applicants.
It is. It speaks to the growing demand for this visa category and the lengths people are willing to go to, to secure it. And it's not just for people with a, long list of awards and publications either. Baden also works with people who might not have those traditional credentials, but can demonstrate their extraordinary ability in other ways.
Oh, okay. Like what? Give me an example.
Let's say you're a brilliant software developer who's created, groundbreaking technology but hasn't gotten a lot of recognition yet. Baden might help you get, media coverage in some prominent tech publications.
Okay.
Arrange speaking engagements at conferences. Maybe connect you with influential people in the tech world who can, attest to your expertise.
So it's about creating that buzz, that visibility.
Yeah.
To make you stand out.
Precisely. Building a narrative that showcases your impact and your potential.
So for those considering the EB-1A route, it might be worth, exploring how building a stronger public profile can help them.
It's something to think about for sure, especially with how competitive it is now.
Okay. So before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's touch on evidence. We already talked about exhibitions and performances as evidence for the EB-1A. What are some other types of evidence that could strengthen a self-petition, regardless of the category?
Well, it really depends on the specific category and your, individual profile. But in general, you want to focus on things that demonstrate your accomplishments, impact, and recognition in your field. Publications in peer-reviewed journals, patents, awards, honors, media coverage, letters of recommendation, evidence of high salary or compensation, documentation of your contributions to significant projects or organizations.
It's about like painting a complete picture.
Yeah, exactly. You want to leave no doubt that you're a standout in your field and that your contributions are valuable to the U.S.
That's a great point to end on for part one of our deep dive. We'll be back after a short break to delve further into this week's immigration insights. So stay tuned. And we're back for part two of our deep dive into the latest immigration news, all that good stuff tailored for those of you navigating the sometimes tricky world of U.S. visas and green cards. Still with us.
Great. We're continuing our exploration of this week's newsletter from greencardforselfpetition.com, which is, well, a fantastic resource for anyone thinking about going the DIY route.
Especially for those on, F1, H1B, J1 visas, and those hoping to bring family to the U.S. too. Lots of relevant info for them.
Right. So picking up where we left off, let's talk a bit more about strategizing, your green card journey. We've talked about different pathways: the entrepreneur rule, family-based petitions, employment-based categories like the EB1 and EB2. I mean, it's a lot to process, and it can be well, a bit overwhelming, right? Trying to figure out like which path actually aligns with your situation and your goals. It is a lot, like navigating a maze almost, with all these different paths and potential dead ends too. That's why it's so important to approach this strategically, have the right information, the right resources.
And that's where greencardforselfpetition.com really shines. They've got these DIY self-petition packets. They guide you step by step through the application process. Take out the guesswork.
Oh, exactly. They give you a clear roadmap tailored for your specific visa category.
The website, it's packed with articles, FAQs, so much helpful stuff.
Definitely. Answers a lot of common questions, helps you really understand the ins and outs of the whole immigration process.
And don't forget their EB1A and NIW knowledge bot.
Oh, right. Yes.
That thing it's a game changer, seriously. Especially if you're like a deep dive kind of person. It's like having a mini immigration expert right there at your fingertips, ready to answer your questions, give you, personalized insights.
Even helps you strategize, actually highlights potential strengths and weaknesses. Suggests, areas where you might need more evidence, that sort of thing.
Exactly. So big shout out to greencardforselfpetition.com. Definitely check them out. Take advantage of all their resources. Now, one thing we've seen throughout this deep dive is that, well, the immigration landscape, it's constantly evolving. New policies pop up, regulations, trends.
It's true. Staying informed is, well, it's more important than ever.
It is. You got to adapt your strategy, as things change.
Exactly. And one trend we're seeing is the increasing importance of building a strong public profile, especially for those applying in highly competitive categories like the EB1A. It's not enough just to, have a list of accomplishments anymore.
You got to showcase them, right?
Exactly. You have to showcase them in a way that, well, that really resonates with USCIS.
And that's where, firms like Baden come in, right? They help applicants craft those compelling narratives, gain visibility in their field, which can really strengthen their case for extraordinary ability.
Right. It's about creating a buzz around your work, getting media coverage, getting those influential recommendation letters that really speak to your talent.
It's like building a personal brand almost.
Yeah.
One that showcases your value.
Precisely. And it's not just for USCIS either. It also helps you, in the U.S. job market.
Right.
A strong public profile can open doors, connect you with potential employers, collaborators, that kind of thing.
So it's a win-win, really.
Yeah.
Strengthening your immigration application, but also, boosting your professional prospect.
Absolutely.
Now, let's circle back to the importance of evidence. We've touched on this throughout our deep dive, but it's worth repeating.
Can't emphasize it enough.
The strength of your evidence, it can really make or break your case. It doesn't matter which visa category you're going for.
USCIS wants to see proof, concrete proof of your achievements, your qualifications, your potential. It's not enough to just, say you've done things. You need to back it up.
So what are some key types of evidence that our listeners should focus on gathering?
Well, we talked about, publications, patents, awards, recognition from from prestigious organizations. Those are all excellent. But it goes beyond that too. Media coverage, evidence of, a high salary, documentation of your contributions to important projects, organizations, and of course those compelling letters of recommendation from experts in your field. Those are really valuable.
It's about painting that complete picture, right, of your expertise, your impact.
Right, leaving no doubt that you're a standout and that your contributions are valuable to the U.S.
And quality over quantity, right?
Absolutely. It's better to have a few really strong pieces of evidence than, a ton of mediocre ones.
Good point. It's about being strategic.
Yeah.
Choosing the evidence that best showcases your strengths.
Yeah.
And aligns with, the specific criteria of your visa category.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to get creative too. Think outside the box.
Like if you're an artist, you might include, photographs of your work displayed in galleries or reviews of your performances.
Exactly. Or if you're an entrepreneur, you might highlight media coverage of your startup or testimonials from clients.
Right. It's about tailoring your evidence to you.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into the latest immigration news, let's leave our listeners with some final thoughts, some key takeaways.
Very good idea.
Navigating the U.S. immigration system, it can be a real challenge, but it's not impossible.
It's not. With the right information, the right resources, and a strategic approach, you can definitely increase your chances of success. And that's really where, greencardforselfpetition.com comes in. Their newsletter, their DIY packets, their online resources, they provide, the invaluable guidance for those considering the self-petition route.
They really empower you to take control of your own journey.
They do. And remember, even though we're focusing on DIY resources, it's always a good idea to talk to an immigration attorney. If you have, any complex or unique circumstances, they can give you that personalized guidance.
Absolutely. Make sure you're doing everything right.
So to all our listeners out there, we wish you the best of luck in your immigration journey.
Stay informed, stay persistent.
And never give up on your dreams.
The pursuit of a life in the U.S., it's a journey worth taking.
Well said. Well, that wraps up our deep dive for this week. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for more immigration insights and analysis. All right, we're back. For the final part of our deep dive into this week's immigration news, all thanks to the folks at greencardforselfpetition.com. They've really outdone themselves with this newsletter. So much good stuff in there, especially if you're on an F1, H1B, J1 visa and thinking about making the U.S. your permanent home.
Yeah, it's been a great overview, all the different pathways, the latest policy updates, even some tips for navigating the whole immigration process.
It has. But, we've covered a lot, and I think it's good to step back for a minute and think about the bigger picture. Like, why does all of this actually matter to our listeners?
Good point. It's easy to get lost in the weeds, all the forms, the deadlines, the rules that seem to change every other day.
It really is.
But at the end of the day, this is about people's lives. It's about dreams, ambitions. It's about wanting to build a better future for yourself, for your family.
Exactly. It's about, having the freedom to pursue opportunities, to contribute to society, to create a life you're proud of right here in the U.S.
And that's what makes this whole journey so meaningful. It's not just, filling out paperwork. It's about taking charge of your own future.
It is. So as we wrap up, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from this?
Don't give up. Don't get discouraged by the complexity of it all. It can be overwhelming. We get it. But remember, you're not alone. There are resources out there to help you, whether it's, the DIY packets from greencardforselfpetition.com or talking to an immigration attorney.
And most importantly, believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams. This journey, it might be tough, but the rewards are, they're definitely worth it.
They are. So to everyone listening, keep learning, keep pushing forward, and don't ever give up on that dream of a life in the U.S.
That's a great message, Dana. And that's it for this week's deep dive. Thanks for being here with us. We'll catch you next time for more immigration insights and analysis. Until then, stay informed, stay motivated, and keep those dreams alive.
Thank you for listening to a podcast by greencardselfpetition.com. Visit greencardselfpetition.com for do-it-yourself packets. We aim to provide the collective experience of numerous applicants who have successfully self-petitioned for their green cards without employer sponsorship, in either the EB-1A, Extraordinary Ability, or EB-2, NIW National Interest Waiver categories. Our DIY packets are designed to assist you in your self-petition journey.